Chapter 2. The Invention of Comforting Ideas. When a child is afraid of the dark, we hand them a story, a myth, a lamp, a promise that monsters aren't real, that they are protected, that they are not alone. In many ways, humanity has done the same with itself. The moment we became aware of the mystery of existence, its vast silence, its terrifying uncertainty, we started creating stories to fill that silence. Not because we were wise, but because we were afraid. We were afraid of pain, so we invented karma. We were afraid of death, so we invented heaven and reincarnation. We were afraid of meaninglessness, so we invented purpose, destiny, and divine plans. Every spiritual system, every philosophy, even every scientific model, began not with clarity but with discomfort. Fear is the foundation. Think of the earliest human who looked at the night sky and felt overwhelmed. How could those endless stars exist without reason? How could life end so suddenly, so permanently? That mind, desperate for comfort, did what all human minds do. It made a narrative. The stars are gods watching over us. The sun dies and is reborn each day, just like us. The soul leaves the body and goes somewhere. These were not lies. They were medicine. They were ways to soothe the unbearable anxiety of not knowing. And over time, these stories became beliefs. And those beliefs became cultures. And those cultures became religions. And those religions became identities, defended with violence, protected with law, passed on through generations. What began as a quiet fear became a civilization, from metaphor to literalism. The earliest spiritual thinkers were, perhaps, poets. They used symbols to describe the indescribable. When they said the soul, they may have meant awareness. When they said rebirth, they may have meant the ever-changing nature of experience. When they spoke of gods and demons, they may have been referring to psychological forces, inner struggles, aspects of the human condition. But as time passed, metaphor hardened into literal belief. We stopped seeing Shiva as a symbol of destruction and renewal, and began seeing him as an external being to worship. We stopped understanding Brahman as a word pointing to infinite consciousness, and began treating it as a thing that could be described, known, possessed. In short, we started believing our own stories. And once you believe a story too deeply, it no longer frees you. It traps you. The business of belief. Then came institutions, temples, priesthoods, rituals, books, initiations, rules, membership, exclusions, and money. Lots of money. Spirituality turned into religion. Inner exploration turned into organized control. The unknown, once honored as a mystery, became a threat to orthodoxy. Doubt became heresy. Honest questioning was replaced with blind faith. And yet, at the core of all this noise, the original discomfort remained. The inability to sit with not knowing. Why the truth must remain vague. The most honest sages knew something crucial, that truth cannot be captured in words. That consciousness cannot be pointed to like an object. So they remained silent, or they spoke in paradoxes, or they said, as the Upanishads do, neti, neti, not this, not that. The Upanishads were not trying to define God or the soul. They were trying to dissolve your need to define anything. They were not selling a belief system. They were handing you the key to drop all belief systems. But that subtlety was too much for most. We wanted answers. Solid answers. So we misread silence as vagueness. We filled in the blanks with dogma. We turned profound questions into shallow doctrines. And yet, even today, something in us knows. Something in us resonates when we hear silence spoken with sincerity. Something in us still aches for truth that is not sold in temples or written in books. The path of gentle honesty. This chapter is not an attack on religion or culture. It is a reminder of why they were born in the first place, not from knowing, but from fear of not knowing. When we see this clearly, we don't need to throw anything away. We can still light lamps, chant mantras, read holy books, but now with eyes open, not as worshippers, but as witnesses. Not clinging to answers, but honoring the human need that asked the question in the first place. Because ultimately, the most sacred act is not to believe, but to sit in honesty, to say, I do not know, and to find peace not in what that might mean, but in the stillness that follows. Next, we will look at the concept of the soul, where it came from, why we invented it, and whether it truly exists at all.